Welcome back to the AAI Common Room, where we dissect, delight in, and sometimes just generally marvel at the books that catch our collective eye. Today, we're diving headfirst into the deliciously complex world of Agatha Christie's The Secret of Chimneys. I've got to say, this one kept me guessing until the very last page.
Oh, absolutely, Aristo. The Secret of Chimneys is such a riot of characters and convoluted plots. I mean, from the moment Anthony Cade steps off that boat, you just know you're in for a wild ride. It's a perfect storm of political intrigue, mistaken identities, and good old-fashioned murder.
Riot is one word for it, Albert. Chaotic is another. It felt like Christie threw every trope she had into a blender. Still, I'll admit, the setup in Bulawayo with Anthony Cade as a glorified tour guide was certainly unconventional for a murder mystery. Caught my attention immediately.
Unconventional is a good word, Isaac. It really starts off with a bang, doesn't it? We meet Anthony Cade, who, let's be honest, is a bit of a charming rogue. He's wrangling this group of depressed-looking females and 3 perspiring males for Castle's select tour, and he runs into Jimmy McGrath. That exchange alone sets the tone.
Gentleman Joe. I loved that. It instantly tells you something about Anthony, doesn't it? He's clearly got a past, a history of adventures, and probably a few scrapes. And Jimmy McGrath, thick-set and not nearly so good-looking, is the perfect foil, the kind of character who just brings trouble.
Trouble, or opportunity, depending on your perspective. McGrath's description of Anthony as having an absolute instinct for Rose and the 9 lives of a cat is spot on. It immediately characterizes our protagonist as someone who thrives on chaos. And then he just casually takes on this ridiculous job of delivering memoirs for £250.
Well, it seems ridiculous and simple at first, doesn't it? Just deliver a manuscript, get paid. But the way Jimmy explains it, the whole from Paris to London via Africa route for Count Stylptitch's memoirs, immediately flags it as something more. What did you two make of Stylptitch? He's this legendary, almost mythical figure, even before we properly meet him.
Stylptitch. Oh, he's brilliant. The grand old man of the Balkans, the greatest statesman of modern times, the biggest villain unhung. I mean, Christie perfectly captures that duality of a powerful public figure, someone whose legacy is so intensely debated depending on your political leaning. He's the ultimate puppet master, even in death.
More like a ghost of a puppet master. He died 2 months before the story really kicks off, yet his memoirs are driving all this international intrigue. That's classic Christie, isn't it? The past constantly intruding on the present. And the description of him being a perfect king of intrigue, it's almost Shakespearean.
Exactly. He's a catalyst, even from beyond the grave. And the reason these memoirs are so explosive, Slovakia, which, let's be frank, is probably the least important Balkan state until the oil discovery. Anthony's description of it, principal rivers, unknown. Principal mountains, also unknown, but fairly numerous. Capital, Ekarist. Population, chiefly brigands. Hobby, assassinating kings and having revolutions. I had nearly snorted my tea.
That's classic dry Christie wit. It's a caricature, but it also brilliantly sets up the stakes. This isn't just about £1,000. It's about the future of a whole nation and potentially European stability. And then we learn about King Nicholas IV and his utterly unsuitable wife, Queen Viraga, the music hall artiste. That detail alone makes you realize how scandalous Stylptitch's memoirs could be.
And how quickly things can escalate. The populace wanting the genuine article in a queen, leading to a revolution and the murder of the king and queen. It sets a precedent for how volatile Slovakia is. It's not just a backdrop, it's a character in itself, influencing everything.
And then Jimmy throws another wrench into the works, the second commission. This help a lady subplot, completely unrelated to the memoirs, or so it seems. Letters from a woman being blackmailed by a dago he saved in Uganda, with the only clue being chimneys. Did anyone else's internal alarm bells go off when he said chimneys?
Oh, absolutely. As soon as he mentioned it, I thought, aha, there's the title connection.
It's such a classic Christie move to weave seemingly disparate plot threads together. And the name Virginia Revel, just a pretty name to Jimmy, but clearly significant. You just know she's going to be central.
For me, it was less alarm bells and more a groan, two completely separate plot lines being foisted onto poor Anthony. It felt a bit forced initially, but then you realize it's all part of Christie's intricate web spinning. Chimneys is the anchor, bringing everything back to this grand English country house.
And then we shift scenes entirely to London, to the upper echelons of British politics, specifically Lord Caterham and the Honour George Lomax. Lord Caterham, the 9th Marquis, who just wants to be left alone and hates politics, is such a relatable character, even if he is a peer of the realm. His quite so, to Lomax trying to escape an interminable conversation, that's just perfect.
Lord Caterham is a delight. He's the antithesis of the grand, influential Marquis his brother was. He finds politicians and politics utterly boring, which is hilarious given the high-stakes game being played around him. He's almost a proto-Poirot figure in his disinterest, allowing the chaos to unfold without his active participation.
Relatable, yes, if you happen to be a reclusive marquis, but he serves a critical purpose. He's the unwitting host, the man whose house becomes the crucible for all this international drama. His resistance to Lomax's demands, his desire to escape, adds a nice touch of comedic relief before things get really serious.
And Lomax, of course, is the quintessential man in high places, obsessed with discretion, national interest, and all that political bluster. He's the one pushing for Prince Michael Obolovich to be restored to the Herzl-Slovakian throne, primarily for oil concessions. The whole under the guise of a shooting party is such a flimsy pretext, but everyone just goes along with it.
Ah, the shooting party. It's such a wonderfully British way to hide a coup. And the casual mention of Herman Isaacstein representing the all-British syndicate, I mean, the wink and nod there about the financial interests at play is so thinly veiled it's almost transparent. Christie doesn't shy away from showing this cynical underbelly of politics.
And the scandal. Lomax is terrified of Stylptitch's memoirs because they could ruin everything. Not because of the truth, but because of the optics. The unfortunate disappearance that almost ruined the 8th Marquis's career, the hushed-up secret, that's the real hook. The true secret of Chimneys.
Exactly, Isaac. That's the moment the two seemingly separate plot lines begin to converge. Stylptitch was at Chimneys when something disappeared, and he knew something. And it's clear it wasn't just some forgotten tea service. This is something much bigger, much more dangerous. And Lomax, desperate to prevent publication, decides a woman might be very useful here. Enter Virginia Revel.
And what an entrance! Bill Eversley's adoration for her, her radiant vitality, her utterly charming dismissal of his advances. She's captivating. The description of her exquisite slimness and that indescribable mouth that tilted ever so slightly at one corner in what is known as the signature of Venus. Christie rarely gives such detailed physical descriptions, so it really stands out.
Her description made me wonder if Christie had a specific person in mind. She's not just a pretty face, though. She's sharp, intelligent, and immediately sees through Bill's manufactured telephone out-of-order excuse. She's poised, as Lomax wanted, but also quite mischievous.
She absolutely is. She's witty, too, which is a trait I always appreciate in Christie's female characters. And the hit band conversation with Bill? That was just delightful. It adds a layer of early 20th century social commentary about fashion and the lengths women went to.
It gives one such a noble feeling to suffer for one's silhouette. Priceless. And her teasing of Bill, saying she'd marry him if a wicked mandarin forced her to, but only because she enjoys being a wicked widow. She's a force of nature, completely in control.
She's also Lomax's cousin, which is another convenient connection. But then Bill Eversley makes his critical error. He mishears Granarth Castle as Carnfray Castle, leading to Anthony Cade arriving a day early. This is one of those small, seemingly insignificant mistakes that completely unravels Lomax's grand plan.
The flaw in the best-laid plans, as Christie puts it. Bill is a good lad, but not exactly brainy. and his pleasant but quite inaudible voice is the perfect setup for this kind of misunderstanding. It's so mundane, yet so pivotal. And Anthony, traveling as Jimmy McGrath, checks into the Blitz Hotel.
And the moment he steps out, he's jostled by a man who gives him a searching glance. It's so quick, but immediately tells you he's been noticed. And then he looks in the mirror and realizes how much he's changed. The fair, slightly chubby boy of 18 is gone, replaced by a lean, brown-faced man. It's a moment of quiet reflection for a character who rarely slows down.
The jostling man and the self-reflection, it's all setting the stage. Someone is looking for Jimmy McGrath. Anthony is a stand-in, but he's already attracting attention. And then Baron Lolapritzel calls. Lollipop, as Anthony affectionately renames him, the loyalist party of Herzoslovakia, making their move.
Baron Lollipop is fantastic, and he's immediately offering more money for the memoirs than Jimmy was promised. This scene is brilliant for revealing the stakes. The Baron thinks the memoirs will cause scandals, and Europe into war plunged maybe. But what struck me was his simplicity in admitting, "Until I have read the memoirs, I do not know, but there is sure to be something."
I loved that. It's almost comically honest. They're buying blind, purely out of fear of what might be in there. It underscores the power of reputation and the potential for a historical document to rewrite narratives, even if no one's actually read it yet. And Anthony's refusal, based on English honor, is a perfect character moment. He's a rogue, but he has a code.
And the Baron respects it. That was a surprise. He doesn't press further, just says, "We must another way try." It's a subtle way of showing the respect, even between adversaries, for a man of his word. But then the threat. Anthony wonders if it was a threat, and we soon find out it was.
Indeed. No sooner has Baron Lollipop left than Anthony finds the crucial clue to Virginia Revel's identity in an illustrated paper. The honor Mrs. Timothy Revel as Cleopatra. Before her marriage, Mrs. Revel was the honor Virginia Catherine, a daughter of Lord Edgbaston. This confirms she's connected to the aristocratic set, probably someone who would stay at Chimneys.
And then, boom, the sinister comrade of the Red Hand appears. The shift in tone is immediate and jarring. From polite political wrangling to a stage villain brandishing a revolver and demanding the memoirs. Accursed Englishman! The whole scene is so theatrical, so over the top, but it works to inject immediate danger.
A cross between gargling and barking like a dog. Anthony's internal monologue about the name and his casual dismissal of the stage villain appearance is great. He's unimpressed by bluster. And then he just kicks the guy out. It shows he's not just charming, he's physically capable and quick thinking.
He's very capable. It's a strong action sequence for Christie, actually, and it reinforces Jimmy's earlier comment about Anthony's 9 lives. He's clearly dealt with this kind of danger before, and his realization that this isn't going to be quite such a soft job as I thought. I've already fallen foul of both the Loyalist and the Revolutionary parties is an understatement.
Oh, totally. He's right in the thick of it, just as Jimmy predicted. And the fact that the memoirs haven't even been read yet, but everyone's already fighting over them, is peak Christie. It's the MacGuffin, the object that drives the plot, but its actual contents are secondary to its perceived threat.
And then the waiter, Giuseppe, another attempted theft, another person after the memoirs. Anthony's observation of Giuseppe's twitching hands and dry lips, the feverish intensity. It's a brilliant piece of quiet observation that shows Anthony is constantly on guard. He might be casual, but he's never complacent.
And his attempt to read the memoirs. So far, he had found the memoirs insufferably dull, with no hint of scandal of any kind. This is another clever twist, making us question if the memoirs are even what everyone thinks they are. Are they a red herring? Or is the secret deeper than the surface text?
It's fantastic misdirection. You expect juicy gossip and explosive revelations, but instead it's just boring diplomatic history. It makes you wonder if the real secret isn't in the words themselves, but in something else entirely, something hidden within the manuscript or its delivery. Or perhaps the memoirs are just a means to an end.
Or perhaps Stylptitch was just a really dull writer and everyone was overreacting. But no, this is Christie. There's always a deeper game at play.
The water bottle on the chair against the door, the manuscript under the pillow. Anthony is taking precautions, but even then he's almost caught unawares when he wakes to someone rifling his suitcase.
And it's Giuseppe, the waiter, the guy Anthony spoke to in Italian, dismissed with a nod. He's not just curious, he's actively involved. So now Anthony knows the hotel staff are compromised, which raises the stakes even higher for him alone in London. He has no idea who to trust.
This is where the tension really builds, isn't it? He's a fish out of water in London society, accustomed to the rough and tumble of Africa, and suddenly he's surrounded by suave diplomats and shadowy figures, all after the same thing, and he has to deal with it all while impersonating Jimmy McGrath.
It's not just the staff, Albert. The entire operation seems compromised. How did Giuseppe know? How did the comrade of the Red Hand know? Someone is leaking information about Jimmy McGrath and the memoirs from the very beginning. This points to a deeper conspiracy, not just opportunistic thieves.
Exactly, Isaac. It's not a random encounter. It's a targeted attack. And it hints that the players are far more organized and far-reaching than Anthony first imagined. He's essentially walking into a hornet's nest. He's got to get to Chimneys, deliver those letters to Virginia Revel, and figure out what the real secret is, and deliver the memoir safely.
And let's not forget the character of Superintendent Battle. He's introduced quite early, in Chapter 11, Superintendent Battle Arrives. That's his own chapter title, which immediately signals his importance. He's the cool, methodical police presence amidst all this chaos. His arrival is usually when Christie starts to untangle the threats, but here it's almost an early warning.
Battle's arrival is significant because it grounds the story in actual crime, not just political maneuvering. He's the anchor of reality. He's not interested in oil concessions or royal restorations. He's interested in bodies and evidence. And he's already at Chimneys, which means the stakes have already been raised beyond just political maneuvering.
He's brought in after the first murder at Chimneys, isn't he, when Boris, Prince Michael's secretary, is found dead in the house. That's the moment the whole charade of the shooting party collapses and the actual mystery begins. And it's not just a simple murder. Boris is shot, and the murder weapon is found near Anthony, making him the prime suspect.
Yes, the A Dead Man chapter. It's so direct, so shocking. And the immediate framing of Anthony is brilliant. He's already a man of mystery, traveling under an assumed name with a reputation for rows. It's almost too perfect for him to be accused. You immediately know he's been set up.
Battle, to his credit, doesn't immediately jump to conclusions. He observes Anthony, notes his reactions. He's a good counterpoint to the more emotionally charged characters. But he is methodical, and Anthony's story about being Jimmy McGrath, gold hunting, and saving Stylptitch just sounds preposterous.
Absolutely. Anthony's story is preposterous, but it's the truth, or at least his version of it. And Battle, being the experienced investigator he is, finds it hard to believe. But the crucial piece of information is that Boris, the prince's secretary, was killed, and the memoirs were stolen from Anthony's suitcase after he brought them to Chimneys.
The theft of the memoirs at Chimneys is a huge moment, because it proves that the interest in them isn't just theoretical. Someone is willing to kill for them. And the fact that they were stolen from Anthony, even after his precautions, makes him look even guiltier, but also highlights the sheer audacity of the criminals.
And the timing of it all. Prince Michael is due to arrive. The political machinations are at their peak. The murder serves to destabilize everything, to send everyone into a panic. It complicates the oil deal, the restoration, everything.
It does. And then there's the arrival of the real Jimmy McGrath, or rather, the man who claims to be Jimmy McGrath. This is where the mistaken identity plotline truly blossoms. A man, shot dead, is identified as Jimmy McGrath, but Anthony is Jimmy McGrath. Or rather, he's Anthony Cade pretending to be Jimmy McGrath. It's a classic Christie layering of deception.
This is where I got genuinely excited. The man found dead in the secret passage identified as Jimmy McGrath. But Anthony is Jimmy McGrath, but not really Jimmy McGrath. My head was spinning in the best possible way. It immediately throws everything you thought you knew about the identities up in the air.
And then the actual Jimmy McGrath shows up later, doesn't he? Or someone claiming to be him, injured. It's confusing, but intentionally so. Christie is deliberately muddying the waters to keep the reader off balance. It makes you reevaluate everything Anthony said earlier. Was he telling the truth, or was he part of a deeper deception?
He was telling the truth, but the situation is so convoluted that it sounds like a lie. The whole dynamic between him and Battle is fantastic here, because Battle has to sort through these contradictory identities. And we also get introduced to Bundle, Lord Caterham's daughter, Lady Eileen. She's a whirlwind, isn't she?
Bundle. Oh, she's a gem. Red-hot socialist. Charming, simply charming, but quite a child. She's the energetic, inquisitive, and somewhat reckless youth of the group. She's constantly poking her nose into things, uncovering clues, and forming her own theories. She's almost the reader's proxy in her desire to solve the mystery.
She's a useful plot device, absolutely. Her youthful exuberance and disdain for authority figures allow her to ask questions and go places others wouldn't. She balances out the stuffiness of the political figures and the older members of the household. And she has a crush on Bill Eversley, which adds a little romantic subplot, however minor.
And then the plot introduces George Lomax's cousin, Virginia Revel, who we've already met. She's also at Chimneys, ostensibly to assist Lomax. And remember the letters Anthony was supposed to deliver? The ones from Virginia Revel to Chimneys? The pieces are starting to slot into place.
Oh, the letters. That's the payoff. We've been holding on to that thread since the beginning, and now Virginia Revel, the sophisticated charmer, is revealed as the vulnerable woman who is being blackmailed. It's a brilliant connection, tying the personal drama of the letters to the grand political intrigue.
It makes the entire thing coalesce. The blackmail, the memoirs, the revolution, the murder, it all circles back to Chimneys and the people gathered there. But then, the identity of the dead man becomes even more complex. It's not just Jimmy McGrath. It's King Victor, the notorious jewel thief.
King Victor, the man Anthony mentioned early on who was supposedly in jail. That immediately recontextualizes the first murder. If the dead man is King Victor, then he wasn't just a random secretary or Jimmy McGrath. He was a master criminal, and his presence at Chimneys is highly suspicious.
And Anthony had recognized the significance of King Victor early on, suggesting Stylptitch might have known him. It makes you realize how much Anthony knows, how much he pieces together, even before the reader does. He's always a step ahead, connecting the dots that seem disparate to everyone else.
Battle's slow, methodical unraveling of King Victor's identity and his connection to Stylptitch is where the story truly grips. It pulls in the idea of the unfortunate disappearance from years ago, implying that King Victor's activities might be tied to an earlier, unsolved crime at Chimneys.
And it is. The story of the 7 missing years of Prince Michael, the heir to Czechoslovakia. He disappeared as a child. Stylptitch knew something. King Victor knew something. And the memoirs hold the key. This is where Christie really shines, weaving historical mystery with current events.
It's all about deception and hidden identities. The real Prince Michael was supposed to be in jail, wasn't he? And the one coming to Chimneys is an imposter. It's such a bold play to have the central figure of the political plot be a fraud. It completely changes the dynamic.
So the Prince Michael who arrives at Chimneys is the imposter, and the Jimmy McGrath who was killed was actually King Victor. But then who is the real Prince Michael? And where does Anthony Cade fit into all this? Is he just a pawn or something more?
That's the beauty of it, isn't it? Anthony is constantly being underestimated. He's pretending to be McGrath, but he's also Anthony Cade, a man with his own mysterious past and connections to Czechoslovakia. His curious ring in his voice when Jimmy first mentions it earlier, that's a brilliant foreshadowing.
I totally forgot about that. Slovakia? He said, with a curious ring in his voice. Christie drops these little breadcrumbs so expertly. It wasn't just a throwaway line. It was a clue that Anthony had a deeper personal connection to the country.
It makes sense given his involvement with revolutions. He's not just a casual adventurer. He has history there. And then the story reveals the true Prince Michael, the one everyone thought was dead, was actually alive and well, possibly in hiding. And Stylptitch's memoirs are not just about political scandals. They're a coded message, a confession, or a reveal.
They're a confession, in a way. Stylptitch knew the real Prince Michael, and he also knew about the impostor. The Secret of Chimneys is not just one secret, but layers of them, all interconnected. The missing crown jewels, the disappeared prince, the assassination of King Nicholas. It's all part of a larger historical tapestry.
And the whole focus on the date, October 13th. That's the deadline for the memoirs, but it also becomes the date for other events, doesn't it? The attempt on the imposter Prince Michael's life, the confrontation in the Rose Garden. It all converges on that one day.
The 13th of October is a classic ticking clock device. It ratchets up the tension, forces everyone's hand. And then the reveal that the dead Jimmy McGrath was actually a known associate of King Victor, who was in fact the fake Prince Michael, Boris. It's like a nested doll of deception.
It truly is. And the actual murderer, isn't it M. Lomax who is revealed to be King Victor? Or is it Boris? This is where it gets really convoluted, the various aliases and identities. The French stranger, Monsieur Lemoine, who is actually Superintendent Battle in disguise, also adds to the confusion before the clarity.
Ah, the French stranger, Lemoine. That's Battle's secret weapon, his undercover persona. It's so great to see Battle using such theatrical methods, completely different from his usual staid police work. It shows how high the stakes are and how many different agencies are involved in this tangled mess.
Lemoine's role is critical. He's feeding Battle information from within the household, acting as another pair of eyes. But the identities themselves are the real puzzle. The first dead body is Boris, the prince's secretary, who is actually King Victor. And then, later, another body is found, I recall. It's Lord Caterham's relative.
That's right, Isaac. The first dead man, the one identified as Jimmy McGrath by some and killed at Chimneys, is actually King Victor. And then there's Boris, the secretary of the fake Prince Michael, who was also murdered. It's so dense with false identities and misdirection. And the ultimate reveal is that the real Prince Michael has been living under an assumed identity all along, and Anthony Cade is in fact the true Prince Michael Obolovich.
Gasp! That's the big one. That's the twist that makes everything click into place. Anthony Cade, the charming tour guide, the man who wants Rose, is the lost heir to her Czechoslovakia. His curious ring in his voice makes perfect sense. He's been hiding in plain sight, living an adventurous life until fate and Jimmy McGrath brings him back to his destiny.
I'll admit, that one caught me off guard. The signs were there, but the casual way Christie reveals it, almost as an aside, is brilliant. It makes you reread the early chapters with new eyes. All his adventures, his facility with languages, his quick thinking, they're all attributes of a royal in exile, not just a random wanderer.
And it also explains his seemingly cavalier attitude towards the £1,000 and his earlier joking about being president. He could be king. He's been denying his past, living under a false identity, and then he's thrust back into it. The memoirs, in essence, are his claim to the throne, his vindication.
And the actual mastermind behind all the murders and the plot to put an imposter on the throne is M. Lomax's secretary, a man named Mr. Isaacstein, who is working for the true villain, the Countess Stylptitch. No, wait, that's not right. It's a bit of a labyrinth, isn't it? The real master villain is actually a relative of Virginia Revels, isn't it? Prince George, the second son of the assassinated King Nicholas IV.
Not the Countess Stylptitch, no. That's a different book. This one, the big reveal is that the imposter Prince Michael is in fact George Lomax's nephew, and the actual culprit, the one who orchestrated King Victor's murder and was behind the scheme, is Prince George, the younger brother of the original Prince Michael, who had been hiding. This is where it gets incredibly detailed, and quite frankly, hard to keep straight without a diagram.
You're right, Isaac. It's Prince George, the younger brother, who wants the throne for himself, and he uses the imposter and King Victor to get what he wants. He's working with Mr. Isaacstein, the financier, who isn't just a representative of the syndicate, but a key figure in the conspiracy. The book's climax unravels all these threads. Prince George is the one who set up the entire scheme, including the murder of King Victor, who was posing as the false Prince Michael's secretary.
And the true Prince Michael, Anthony Cade, has to prove his identity. The whole secret of the memoirs is that they contain proof of his existence and lineage, and the location of the lost crown jewels of Czechoslovakia. It's not just a political scandal. It's the re-establishment of a royal line.
The crown jewels. That's what King Victor was after, isn't it? They were hidden at Chimneys. That's the other layer of the unfortunate disappearance from years ago. Not just a missing person, but missing royal regalia. It connects the international jewel thief to the country estate.
Yes, precisely. The crown jewels were stolen years ago during the original revolution, and Stylptitch knew where they were hidden. The memoirs contain the clue to their whereabouts. So all these characters converging at Chimneys, the true prince, the imposter, the political figures, the jewel thief, are all after different pieces of the same puzzle. The climax with the various secret passages and hidden compartments in Chimneys is pure adventure.
The house itself becomes such a character. Secret passages, sliding panels, hidden rooms. It's a perfect setting for all this intrigue. Christie uses the stately home of England trope and twists it into something quite sinister and labyrinthine. It's not just a backdrop, it's integral to the unfolding of the plot.
And the motives are so varied. Greed for the oil concessions, power for the throne, the thrill of the chase for the jewels, and protecting a legacy. It's a grand tapestry of human ambition and weakness. And Virginia Revel, of course, plays a critical role in all of it.
Virginia Revel. She's not just the woman with the blackmail letters. She's also connected to the royal family. She's the one who helps Anthony, or rather Prince Michael, navigate the treacherous waters of court politics and personal danger. And the romance between her and Anthony, it develops very subtly amidst all the chaos.
Their romance is so charmingly understated. They're both witty, capable, and slightly jaded. They bond over their shared experiences of intrigue and danger. It's not a grand, passionate affair, but a partnership built on mutual respect and shared adventure.
And it's a necessity, really. Anthony needs her connections and her understanding of the British establishment to prove his identity, and she needs his protection and his ability to cut through the diplomatic jargon. They complement each other.
And in the end, Anthony, Prince Michael, decides to embrace his destiny. He takes on the role of King of Czechoslovakia, with Virginia by his side. It's a classic fairy tale ending, but with all the grit and complexity of a political thriller. He signs on for a new job, as the chapter title says.
Anthony signs on for a new job. Yes, it's such a perfect, understated way to cap off his journey, from tour guide to king, from Gentleman Joe to Prince Michael. And it's all thanks to Jimmy McGrath, who just wanted to go gold hunting. The sheer serendipity of it all is delightful.
Serendipity, or fate. It depends on how you look at it. He was destined for this, perhaps. But it's a remarkable transformation and a unique ending for a Christie novel. It's not just about solving a murder. It's about altering the course of a nation.
It elevates the stakes beyond a simple whodunit. It's a historical whodunit, really, with implications for a fictional European country. And the complexity of the plot, with all the double identities, the triple bluffs, and the interconnected secrets, makes it a true mental workout. It's one of Christie's more ambitious non-Poirot Marple stories.
It really is. It feels bigger in scope. And Battle, our reliable superintendent, is left to mop up the details, ensuring justice is served, even if it's tangled up in international diplomacy. He's the quiet hero, ensuring order is restored.
He's the necessary grounding force. Without Battle, the whole thing would just be political machinations and adventurous escapades. He brings the crime element firmly into focus. But the biggest takeaway for me is the sheer audacity of the plot. It's so layered.
So, if we had to pick one core theme that Christie explores here, what would it be? For me, it's the nature of identity and how readily it can be assumed, shed, or entirely fabricated, especially in the pursuit of power or wealth.
Oh, that's a brilliant one, Aristo. And I'd add to that, the way that the past, no matter how distant or suppressed, inevitably catches up with the present. The unfortunate disappearance from years ago, the hidden memoirs, the lost heir, they all resurface with devastating consequences.
I'd lean towards the corrupting influence of power and greed. Everyone at Chimneys, from the politicians to the criminals, is driven by some form of self-interest. Even the desire to restore the monarchy is tinged with the promise of oil concessions.
All excellent points. It's certainly a book that rewards a second reading, just to catch all those subtle clues and foreshadowing. The sheer confidence with which Christie drops tiny hints, like Anthony's curious ring in his voice, and then pays them off so spectacularly, is just masterful. It's almost as if she dares you to piece it together earlier than she intends.
And the way she uses the characters to represent different facets of the British establishment versus the more adventurous, less constrained individuals. Lord Caterham and Lomax embody the old guard, trying to manage chaos with decorum, while Anthony and Virginia are much more adaptable and proactive.
It really highlights the clash of worlds, the dusty, predictable world of British politics and high society suddenly invaded by Balkan brigands, jewel thieves, and a long-lost prince. It's a very English setting for a very un-English story in a way.
Which makes it all the more compelling, doesn't it? The juxtaposition is what creates so much of the humor and the tension, and it's a testament to Christie's reign beyond her more famous detectives. Battle is great, but it's Anthony and Virginia who truly drive the narrative forward.
And the ending with Anthony becoming king is just so satisfying. It's not a return to normalcy. It's the beginning of a new, even more adventurous chapter for him. He gets the girl, the throne, and the promise of more rows. What more could an adventurer ask for?
Peace and quiet, maybe. But I suppose that wouldn't be Anthony Cade. It's a fun ride, and despite my initial skepticism about the convoluted plot, it mostly holds together. The sheer energy of it is what makes it work.
Definitely. And speaking of energy, that brings us to the end of our discussion today on The Secret of Chimneys. Before we sign off, Isaac, what's one question you'd pose to our listeners about this particular Christie novel?
Given the sheer number of hidden identities and assumed names in this book, what do you think that says about the value of a true identity, especially when it comes to leadership? Is it who you are or who you pretend to be that truly matters in power? Let us know in the comments.
And if you've enjoyed our foray into the secrets of Chimneys, don't keep it a secret yourself. Go ahead and subscribe, rate, review, share with a friend, shout it from the rooftops, tell your pet cat. Do whatever you do to spread the word about good podcasts. We love hearing from you.
Indeed we do. For Albert and Isaac, I'm Aristo, and this has been the AAI Common Room. Join us next time for another literary adventure. Goodbye.